Is now September 3rd, 2024. Prismo in the news. Hello, everyone. We put out news this morning, and I'm joined today by three people. Steve Robertson, our president, Craig Gibson, who's our chief exploration officer and one of our co-founders. And we have a special guest today, directly from Tucson, Arizona, Dr. Linus Keating, who I will ask him in a minute here to introduce himself. A lot of our viewers have probably seen the video that we released last week where Dr. Keating speaks about Hot Breccia. But before I go to him, why don't I go to you, Steve? Real good news. We were able to identify data just recently. We're able to purchase it, and I think the news release speaks for itself. But it's great, but it's quite technical. So it'd be good, Steve, if you could explain to our viewers what the news release means in layman's terms.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Alain. This is pretty exciting for us, I think, because I've used the analogy many times before that doing exploration on a project is like a jigsaw puzzle, and actually, it's more like a very complex three-dimensional puzzle. And this provides some really important pieces for that puzzle for us. Some of the data that has come in, like the full results from hole OC1. The first hole that was drilled back in 1974 is really critical to us. The drill core is gone, so we can't go back and re-examine the drill core. We can't go back and re-assay it and that sort of thing. So being able to pull this information out of a lost database somewhere is really exciting for us. We're, of course, not only able to get the actual scientific information, but also the interpretation from the geologists at that time who had spent a lot of time examining the project. So a very exciting milestone for us to help move forward.
And Steve, how does that impact the upcoming drill campaign? So our viewers will know that we're planning on drilling 5 holes of more or less 1,000 meters each. Does the acquisition of the new data, as we explained today, does not have any impact on our drilling plan? And you might also want to touch upon the AI computation that's going on right now and maybe tie everything together.
Yeah, well, it really does, leapfrog on itself, because we've incorporated the new information into the model that was used for the AI work, which is now actually being run. So the computer is spinning away as we speak here. I don't know if that's the correct technical term for it or not, but all of this information has been now incorporated into that model that work is being based on. And on top of that, the information that came out of this database also has shown us some evidence of more widespread distribution of some of those mineralized fragments coming up from the depths. And so it's really expanded our area of interest. And at the same time, it corroborates fairly well with the results of our ZTEM survey that we did in 2023. And so it's all fitting together fairly well and helping us inform the drill program that's coming up. The drill program is going to be based on all the information that we can get our hands on, and including the new drill hole data. So we'll continue to adjust those holes as we move forward through the program as well.
Before I go to Linus, Craig, I know you negotiated the deal to acquire that data. Do you have any comments on the significance of what we have purchased?
Oh yeah, thanks, Alain. I think the main thing is this gives us information kind of in a time gap that we didn't have before. We had the thesis done by Larry Barrett, so he was the expert on the area. And then we had a little bit of information from the drilling, but we didn't have anything done in the 1972 to 1974 time period. And so we have some of that data now. Some of the background data, and then we have a little bit more data of the drilling. So I think this is kind of confirms our model. Everything, like as Steve said, is falling together a little bit better than it was before. You know, we have a large scale system and all the databases are fitting together nicely. So I think it's a pretty good acquisition for us.
Thank you. Time to go to Dr. Keating, Linus. Steve mentioned that the cores from the drilling at Hot Breccia in the 70s, I guess they were disposed of. But you saw them. So could you comment on that, what you saw? But before you do, Linus, maybe give our viewers a bit of your background, if you don't mind.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Linus Keating. I'm an exploration geologist and manager of Walnut Mines, which is the underlying landowner at Hot Breccia. I've been in the exploration business for almost 40 years, worked on 5 continents, and primarily in base metals and gold. So Hot Breccia is a property that Walnut picked up in, I think, 2012, and we've had a long period of pushing the property, pushing the ideas, and one of our limitations was that we only had very sketchy summary data on the drill results. We only had 7 lines of information that had some highlights, and we didn't have any kind of consistent data to back that up. The only other confirmation was my personal experience viewing the core before it was disposed of, and I had a chance to do that back in the 90s. And that core was remarkable. It stuck out in my head and remains in my head to this day. I can still see some pieces of this core. After 40 years of experience, it's rare that I can look back on a project and say, oh, I remember that piece of core. So give you an idea of how exciting it was for me at the time. And today, with this new data that Prismo has acquired, it not only confirms our original statements about the summary drill results, but it really helps to emphasize the quality of the alteration and mineralization on the property. So OC1 was the first drill hole that Kennecott drilled, or Bear Creek drilled. It's exciting. It went down to 4,000 feet, but at around 1,300 feet, it actually moved out of the overlying Cretaceous volcanics and into altered sedimentary rock, carbonates, siltstone, sandstones, which are also the same rocks that host the Christmas deposit, and in some cases the highest grade portions of the Christmas deposit. So 1,300 feet was exciting. The assays we now have coming from this data show the molybdenum rising, show the pyrite content rising, and it's in direct contact with a altered granodiorite, which is a similar rock to the intrusive that was responsible for forming the Christmas deposit. So there's all kinds of exciting stuff in this data. One of the things I wanted to emphasize is that in my quote in the recent news release, I talked about the quality of the skarn mineralization. I talked about the presence of garnets, of chlorite, of quartz calcite veins, and of amphiboles. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit more. You know, there are basically 2 types of skarn. You look at, in the old way of looking at things, there's a prograde skarn and there's a retrograde skarn. And prograde tends to be initial contact with the intrusive rocks, and very often they're not the most exciting of skarns to look at, but the retrograde ones are very exciting because this is a period where there are solutions moving around the system. There's volatiles coming up from the intrusive, and very often in that sort of chemical environment, we see metals being moved around and deposited. And so the minerals that I see, or that I remember seeing in the Kennecott core, the garnets are very important, but really important is the chlorite, the quartz calcite, and the amphiboles, because those are products that evolve during the retrograde process while the skarn is being beat up by these volatiles rising from the intrusive. And along with these really cool looking alteration rocks, we see a concomitant increase in the copper content down the hole, as well as the moly content, molybdenum. So this is an exciting, it's just wonderful to be able to see this data. And I have to thank Steve and Craig very much for being able to dig this up, because this data is just not widely available. But it's exciting because it confirms our original summaries of what we suggested was at Hot Breccia. And on top of that, it shows from 1,300 feet all the way down to the bottom of the hole at 4,000, or sorry, at 2,400 feet, it's the bottom of the hole. It shows very elevated copper numbers. The bottom of the hole ended at 725 ppm copper, which is 0.07%, and 12 ppm moly. And you know, it doesn't sound real exciting from an ore grade point of view, but it is really exciting from an exploration point of view. So this is amazing data. It confirms everything that Walnut Mines has said about the Hot Breccia project. And we're just very excited to be able to build on this, to see the artificial intelligence hopefully build on this, and in a sense to have physical confirmation that what we were putting forward is correct and true.
Well, thank you for that, Linus. So before we go, I'd certainly like to give somewhat of an update at Palos Verdes, which is our silver gold project in Mexico, the one that's surrounded by our strategic partner Vizsla Silver. Steve, you before I go to Craig, sorry, to talk about this, Steve, you were on site. Was your first visit? I think it was last week or the week before. Could you say a few words about what you saw and how you feel about that visit?
Yeah, thanks, Alain. It was very exciting for me to go down for the first time to the Paraco district, and I was lucky enough to be there when Jesus Valedor was there, as well as Craig, and the two of them gave me a great tour through the district, and you know, very impressed, first of all, with the size of the district. There's a wide distribution of mineralization over a large area, so this is a big system, and it's also you know, famous for its bonanza grades, and very exciting to take a look at some of the core that's been drilled down there and just see the spectacular mineralization and you know, hole after hole after hole. And we see a lot of the features that are seen elsewhere in the district on our Palos Verdes project, which you know, gives me a lot of hope and expectation that we're going to be successful in this upcoming drill program. This drill program is a very common sense one as far as I'm concerned. It would have been drilled previously if it wasn't for that complication with the land border, so that now that we've got an advanced agreement with Vizsla, that we can drill off their ground at targets on our property. It's these are drill holes that have been waiting for a long time.
Thank you. So Craig, the team, I know you have been on site, and Octavio has been on site, and the rest of the Prismo team since early August, getting ready for this drilling campaign, which I remind our viewers will take place from the Vizsla property, not ours, but it's drilling to explore underneath the Palos Verdes Prismo property. How are things going over there, Craig, and how are the preparations going?
Yes, as you said, we've been on site for roughly a month now, and that's more complex or complicated than our past drilling. Mainly, there's two reasons for that. One, of course, is we're drilling on ground that we don't control. It's Vizsla Silver's ground, so we're integrating all our protocols for safety, environmental, all the work we do with their protocols. So it takes a little bit of time. And the second complication, or more complex part of it, is that we're now drilling from portable sites, meaning that we don't have a road to the sites. We have to hand build access, the drill pad itself, and then move the drill on site either by winching from access above, which we can in some cases, or carrying the equipment along these trails we build to the site. And right now we're constructing our first site, access to the site, and the site, I anticipate drilling to be commenced shortly. I said, we're working with Vizsla, had a very good relationship with them, taking a little bit of time to coordinate everything with their protocols, but I see that phase is just finishing up, and I think we'll be drilling there shortly.
Yes, I like your comment about the terrain there. Viewers could look at our social media channels and see how rugged it is out there. It's like jungle and mountains yeah, so optimizing the drilling by choosing the best drilling spots, but it's a little bit more complicated to set up than on a flat surface by the side of a road. So, well, thank you for that. And I wish to thank Linus Keating for being present today. Thank you, Steve and Craig. And look forward to sharing more news with our shareholders and investors in the very near future. Thank you, everyone.